All right, quick video here on the last day of spring training to discuss the MLB algorithm and how you can update this throughout the day to get projections as lineups are announced. One of the issues with baseball is that you have games going on. I mean, it's a benefit too. Like if you want to pay attention to baseball a day, a lot of times you have the opportunity to watch baseball from noon until midnight or even later, depending on how long these games go. So there are games going on throughout the day. And unfortunately, you don't get confirmed lineups at the same time. So there are two early games today, 12:30 and 1:05. I'm recording this video at about 10 a.m. East Coast time. Two of these games have announced lineups for four of the teams, while the rest of the games have not announced any lineups yet. So how do you account for this in the MLB algorithm if you wanted to pay attention or play these first few games or get projections for these first few games? Because if you can see here, there's a bunch of errors everywhere. There's no pick ranks, there's no projected scores, and there are a few reasons for that. The main reason is because there's no pitcher named for San Francisco as of right now. That's screwing everything up. You could put a fake pitcher in there, but you really want to have the actual pitcher. So what do? Well, here's what you can do if you want to look at just the games that have lineups and have pitchers and everything else, is you can remove the games that have not released their confirmed lineups yet. So we're just deleting them or clearing them out by I'm copying a blank row and I'm overriding all of those games that do not have lineups listed yet. And that will leave you with the projections just based on these two games for these two teams. And it has Tampa Bay beating Detroit 6-2, and it has Atlanta beating Minnesota 4-3, kind of, or 4-4, or these games can end in ties too in spring training. So it really has it's almost a 4-4 game. Very slight margin for Atlanta, but it has Tampa Bay winning this game pretty heavily against Detroit. Now, what do each of these columns mean? Let's go through all of them. Projected score is kind of self-explanatory. It's projecting what it thinks the score is going to be. And we run it to 1 decimal point so that it doesn't round it, and you can kind of see the difference, because this would show as exactly 4-4, even though we really are favoring Atlanta here, 4.4. This is the money line, which should be published money line. It comes from the odds sheet when you paste the odds from RotoWire. You got to keep this updated throughout the day as well to get the latest pitchers and any pitching changes and the latest lines. You keep pasting that in there all day. It doesn't automatically feed it in there. You have to go and manually fetch it from RotoWire. Team power percentage. So this is the raw power percentage, which is related to all these other stats over here. When it shows up in green, it means it's one of the top 10%, I believe, of the day. And it shows up in red, it's one of the worst 10% of the day. So it's really saying that if these were the only two games that were going on today, that Tampa Bay is the strongest pick by far. There's a 14% margin. That's going to be the difference between these two power percentage numbers. That's what the margin is. So you can see also, for example, that Atlanta is a 20% team and Minnesota is a 17% team. So both those numbers are actually kind of high. It says this is a much better game between better teams, but Detroit is extremely weak today, is what this is saying. The pick rank of all the picks, there's 4 different teams you could take today. Number 1 is Atlanta. Number 1 is Tampa Bay. Number 2 is Atlanta. Number 3 would be Minnesota. Number 4 would be Detroit. It's going to give you the order of all of those picks. The team abbreviation, the starting pitcher. Then we get into the pitching stats for the pitcher, and that is related to the pitcher stat year as well. So one thing to note about this is that you want to have either the current year stats or the prior year stats here at the beginning of the year. That's going to be your best data set to work with. Well, Casey Mize hasn't pitched since 2022, and he only had 10 innings pitched in 2022 as well, and they were not good. His ERA was 5.4. He lost the game, and he probably only pitched a couple of games, it looks like. His whip was not great either. So you have a very weak pitcher here, which is one of the reasons why the algorithm is favoring Tampa Bay so heavily today. Ryan Pepiot has much better stats. His ERA is fantastic. His WHIP is really good. You know, when it's a green, it's a good number. When it's red, it's a bad number, right? So if Tampa Bay's hitting can produce some runs, which their lineup factor is the only thing that's not great here, you can see that Tampa Bay's hitting is the third best hitting team on the list. Atlanta has a better hitting team. Minnesota has a better hitting team, according to the lineup factors related to 2023 stats. Detroit's bullpen also has difficulty, whereas Tampa Bay's bullpen is better. So it really says that Tampa Bay wins this game and Detroit does not put up very many runs. That being said, it's still spring training and you never really know who's going to play. So it's spring training and it's not like the regular season. But if this were to operate in the regular season, that's why Tampa Bay shows as a pretty good pick here. BABIP, I mean, that's a batting stat related to like on something about batting per innings pitch, something. The higher the number it is, the better. They're tied for the best BABIP rating between Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Average runs 4 per game, average runs against per game. You can see Detroit's average runs 4 is really low. And they're giving up more runs than everybody else. So there you go. Like it's basically Tampa Bay in an early game today. Now, as the lineups get announced throughout the day, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to the lineups tab and you're going to want to paste over this area here as they announce more lineups. Let's see if they've announced any of the lineups for the 2:00 game yet. Nope, they haven't. None of these lineups are done yet. But when they are, you'll just copy all this and then you'll go right in here and you'll paste over here and you'll refresh this pivot table. And that's how you get the lineups in. We could name any San Francisco pitcher here, but it's almost better not to look at projections when you don't have accurate information in here, because it's just going to lead you generally in the wrong direction. You should just wait until you get the lineups and you get the pitchers, because then you can make a decision. So apparently there are lines. How does that work? How is there a line for the San Francisco game? Is that true? Yeah, I guess so. Somehow they're able to create a line on this game even though there's no pitcher, but they did. All right. So when that gets done, you just update it and you go. So that's the quick update on how you mess around with the matchup sheet and the odds and the lineups. We've got some things like Shota Imanaga, who has pitched in Japan, and I couldn't get any stats on his Japanese numbers at all. So we've just got zeros in here. That's something to note, is that you don't have a good idea of what's going on with this pitcher in the Cubs St. Louis game, because we don't have any stats for him at all. So it will still give you a projection, but yeah, you should take it with a grain of salt because you don't have enough information. So that's the update for baseball. I'm going to be working on generating my crypto token for sports betting and everything else that I'm working on with that. And if you want in on that, you should buy some algorithms and contact me, because that is going to be fun when I release that crypto token and tie it to picks made by this algorithm as I fund it. It's a whole other discussion for another video I'll do as I create it. I've got some ideas for a name and a logo, a meme coin logo. I think it'll be pretty fun. I'm going to use something that involves my name. I'll put it that way. All right. Good luck. May all your picks be winning. If you want to go purchase a copy, check out kenbraverman.com and buy copies of any of the sports algorithms, which I will have available. So good luck. And we'll see if Tampa Bay can beat Detroit early on today, because that's what the algorithm says.